Hello and welcome to Lost Love Mystery, where we explore the twists and turns of love, the pain of betrayal, and the mysteries that lie hidden in the heart. I remember the exact moment my world crumbled beneath me. It was a quiet Thursday evening, the kind where the sky melts into soft hues of orange and pink. I had been looking forward to a peaceful dinner with my wife, Emma, a simple end to a long day. 7 years of marriage had settled into a comfortable rhythm, predictable yet steady. But that night, predictability shattered like glass. I came home, my mind still tangled in the chaos of meetings and deadlines, when my gaze fell upon her phone lying on the kitchen counter. The screen lit up with a message from a name I didn't recognize. "Can't wait for tonight, my love." My heart stuttered. Then, it plummeted. A cold rush of disbelief gripped me, freezing me in place. When Emma walked in, I confronted her immediately. Her face, usually an open book, became unreadable, her eyes refusing to meet mine. And then, with an unsettling calm, she confessed. She had been seeing someone else. Not just an affair, but something deeper, something she spoke about with a quiet reverence that cut deeper than the betrayal itself. "He was an alpha male," she said, as if that somehow justified everything. That term echoed in my mind. Alpha male. As if life was some primal battleground, as if our years together meant nothing in comparison to his supposed dominance. She claimed she wanted excitement, danger, the raw masculinity she believed I lacked. Each word was another nail in the coffin of our marriage. And then, as if my devastation was an afterthought, she simply left, claiming she needed space. I sat alone in our house, now nothing more than an empty stage for a tragedy I never signed up for. The ticking clock on the wall grew louder with every second, marking the death of the life I thought I had. And then, somewhere between heartbreak and rage, something shifted. Not just anger, determination. She thought she had found strength in another man. She had no idea what true strength looked like. I wouldn't crumble. I wouldn't beg. If this so-called alpha thought he could dictate the terms of my life, he was about to meet a different kind of strength. A strength forged in resilience, intelligence, and a cunning he wouldn't see coming. By the time the sun rose, I had made a decision. This wasn't the end of my story. This was the beginning of my reckoning. The morning after the revelation was the longest of my life. Each passing hour stretched into an eternity of introspection and brewing resolve. And then the doorbell rang. It wasn't just any visitor. I knew who it was before I even opened the door. I pulled it open to find him standing there, the man Emma had deemed superior. He looked the part, tall, broad-shouldered, a jawline chiseled with arrogance. His piercing blue eyes assessed me with the cool detachment of a predator sizing up its prey. "Jake," he said, his voice a low, confident rumble. "We need to talk." I stepped aside, not out of submission, but out of curiosity. I wanted to see the man who thought he had taken my place. We sat in the living room, the same space where Emma and I had shared years of laughter and love. Now, it was nothing more than a battlefield. He wasted no time. "She's happier with me," he declared. "She needs someone who can match her vitality." His words were designed to cut deep, to shatter any remaining self-worth I had left. But then, he delivered the real blow, the ultimatum. "You have two choices," he said, leaning forward, his gaze locking onto mine. "Emma stays with you, but she'll see me on the side. Or you step aside completely." He let the words sink in before adding the final insult. "If you choose neither, life can get very difficult for you." The audacity, the sheer arrogance. Here was a man, an outsider, laying claim to my wife, my marriage, my life, as if he had any right to dictate the rules. For a split second, I felt my blood boil. My fists clenched involuntarily, but I didn't react the way he expected. Instead, I studied him, really looked at him. Beneath the smug confidence, I saw something else, insecurity. He was banking on my surrender, expecting me to fold under his dominance. But I didn't. Instead, I leaned back, my voice steady and sharp. "You think you know me?" I asked, my words cutting through the tension. "That you can walk in here and set the terms?" I let the silence stretch before delivering the truth. "You see, I've been the quiet one. The one who builds, who nurtures. But that doesn't mean I'm weak. It means I choose when to fight. And congratulations. You've just made yourself my opponent. His face flickered with surprise. Then, he stood, towering over me, attempting to reassert control. Think carefully, Jake, he warned. This isn't a game. I stood too, not to match his height, but to meet his gaze with unwavering resolve. No, I said, voice calm, unshaken. It's not a game. It's my life. And I'll decide how this plays out. He left with a veiled threat, slamming the door behind him. The silence that followed wasn't defeat. It was the calm before my storm. I was no longer just the betrayed husband. I was a man preparing his next move. I knew brute force wouldn't win this battle. Strength isn't just about muscles or intimidation. It's about knowing how to navigate through the chaos with intelligence, patience, and precision. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about reclaiming my sense of self, proving that resilience and quiet strength could dismantle arrogance. As night fell, I sat outside, staring up at the stars, feeling something I hadn't in a long time: clarity. This wasn't going to break me. If anything, it was about to make me. I would show them both. Not through petty fights or empty threats, but by becoming the kind of man they never saw coming. The kind of man who didn't need to prove his worth, because he already knew it. The morning after that confrontation, the house felt different. The silence wasn't heavy anymore. It wasn't filled with regret or unanswered questions. It was just still, peaceful, even. I sat at the kitchen table, the same one where Emma and I had planned weekend trips, laughed over bad takeout, and built the life I thought would last forever. Now, that life was gone. And instead of mourning it, I started planning something new. I took a long, hard look at myself, not just in the mirror, but deep inside. Somewhere along the way, I had let myself slip into comfort. I had stopped pushing myself, stopped striving to be better. Complacency had crept in like a slow leak, dulling my edges. But now, I was sharpening them again. I threw myself into self-improvement like a man possessed. Not for her, not for him, for me. The gym became my second home. It wasn't about getting bigger. It was about feeling strong again, about knowing that I could rely on my own body. Every drop of sweat was a reminder that I wasn't weak. But I wasn't just rebuilding my body. I was sharpening my mind. I devoured books on psychology, strategy, and leadership. I studied martial arts, not because I wanted to fight, but because I wanted discipline, control. I reconnected with old friends, the ones I had drifted from over the years. Some were thriving, some were struggling, but all of them reminded me of who I used to be. One, a lawyer, gave me insight into my legal options. Another, a former military buddy, taught me about mental resilience, the kind that keeps you standing when the world is trying to knock you down. And I sought out a counselor, not because I was broken, but because I wanted to navigate this storm with wisdom. Sitting in that room, unpacking everything, I realized something that changed everything. My worth had never been tied to Emma's love or to his threats. It had always been mine to define. Weeks passed, then months, and one morning, I woke up and realized I wasn't the same man who had sat, defeated, at that kitchen table. I had rebuilt myself from the inside out. For the first time in years, I felt completely in control. Not in an aggressive way, not in the way he wanted me to fight him. No, this was deeper. I wasn't reacting anymore. I was choosing my own path. I started documenting my journey, not for social media, not for validation, but for myself. Writing down the pain, the lessons, the growth. Every word was a piece of my transformation, a testament to how far I had come. And then, right when I least expected it, the moment for confrontation arrived. Emma texted me. Can we meet? We need to talk about what comes next. I knew what this was. It wasn't just about closure. This was him, pulling the strings, testing me, seeing if I had folded, if I had learned my place. But I agreed to meet, not out of desperation, not out of weakness, because I was ready, not just to face them, but to face myself. The day of the meeting arrived beneath a painfully bright sky, as if the universe itself was mocking the weight of the moment. I chose the location, a quiet cafe, neutral ground. somewhere private, but not intimate. A place where no one had the upper hand. I got there early, not because I was nervous, but because I wanted to sit with my thoughts, to center myself. I found a seat in the back, near a large indoor plant, where the sunlight filtered through the leaves in shifting patterns of green and gold. I sipped my coffee, slowly, deliberately. I wasn't here to fight. I was here to prove a point. Emma arrived first. She hesitated at the entrance, scanning the room before her eyes landed on me. Something in her gaze flickered. Surprise? Uncertainty? Maybe even something close to respect. She looked different, more guarded. Her hair pulled back, her expression neutral. Gone was the warmth I once knew. She sat down across from me. We exchanged a nod, an unspoken acknowledgement that this moment mattered. I didn't expect you to agree to this, she admitted, her voice careful. I met her gaze, steady. I'm not the same man you left, Emma. Her posture stiffened slightly. Before she could respond, he walked in. He entered the room like he owned it, taking up space the way men like him always do, loudly, arrogantly. He took the seat next to her, his posture radiating dominance. And then he smirked. He was expecting a broken man, a desperate man, a man grasping at scraps of dignity. But that wasn't what he saw. He saw me, calm, collected, unshaken. His smirk faltered, just slightly, but I caught it. So, he said, his voice dripping with condescension, have you made your decision? I leaned back, watching him, studying him the way a strategist studies his opponent. Yeah, I said smoothly. But first, let's talk about choices. You gave me two, remember? But there's always a third option, one you didn't see coming. His expression changed, just for a split second. Emma's brows furrowed, her gaze flickering between us. She didn't speak. I let the silence stretch, let the tension settle between us like the calm before a storm. Then I smiled. I've decided to choose neither of your options. And just like that, the game changed. I refused to live in his shadow or step aside. Instead, I chose to live my life on my own terms, whether Emma was part of it or not. I looked him in the eyes. You're about to learn what it means to deal with someone who fights not with fists, but with intelligence. He laughed, a harsh, mocking sound. You think you can intimidate me with words? No, I said calmly. I don't need to intimidate. I've already taken steps to secure my future. I've consulted lawyers and prepared for every possible outcome, including the dissolution of our marriage. Emma, her eyes widened, a flicker of realization crossing her face. The man beside her clenched his jaw, his expression hardening. I've documented everything, every threat, every encounter. If anything happens to me, or if you try to coerce me further, this documentation will find its way to the right people. I leaned forward, my voice unwavering. Being an alpha isn't about control or domination. It's about leadership, integrity, and self-respect, things I've cultivated over these last few months. Silence thickened between us. I could see the gears turning in their heads. Emma looked at me as if truly seeing me for the first time since our paths diverged. I'm not here to reclaim you, Emma. I'm here to reclaim my life. If you choose to come back, it will be because you see the man I've become, not because of any ultimatum. I stood, signaling the end of the meeting. Think about what you really want, both of you. But remember, my life moves forward, with or without you. As I walked away, I felt lighter, not from victory, but from taking control of my own narrative. This wasn't a battle of fists. It was a battle of character, and I had proven that true strength lies in self-mastery, not subjugation. The days that followed were filled with reflection and focus. My life had taken on a new rhythm, one of growth and self-discovery. But the story with Emma and her so-called alpha wasn't over yet. It was entering its most revealing chapter. One evening, as I settled into my new routine, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. The request was simple, to meet, but the urgency and secrecy in its tone piqued my curiosity. Cautious but intrigued, I agreed. The location was a secluded spot by the river, where the city's noise faded into the murmur of water. I arrived early, the setting sun casting long shadows across the landscape. A figure emerged from the twilight. It was Emma. But she wasn't alone. Beside her stood a woman I didn't immediately recognize. But as she stepped into the dim light, familiarity struck me. "Jake, this is Lisa," Emma introduced, her voice tight with tension. Lisa's eyes searched mine, as if looking for trust or understanding. "I need to tell you something about him," she said, her voice shaking. "The man Emma's been with." She unraveled a story of manipulation and deceit. Lisa was his ex, someone who had seen behind his mask of charm and control. He had a pattern: luring people in, bending them to his will, using intimidation to dominate every aspect of their lives. But Lisa had escaped. She had gathered evidence, emails, documents, messages, proof that his power wasn't just emotional but financial and potentially criminal. "He's not just a problem for you and Emma," she continued, showing me damning evidence. "He's threatened others, blackmailed them. He's dangerous." Emma's face was pale with realization. "I didn't know all this, Jake. I thought he was just strong. But this isn't strength. It's tyranny." I exhaled slowly, my mind racing. My instincts had been right all along. This man wasn't just a rival. He was a predator. "We need to stop him," I said, the pieces of my strategy clicking into place. "But we need to do it smartly. Legally." With Lisa's evidence and my recent preparations, an unlikely alliance formed. Nights were spent combing through every detail, consulting with my lawyer friend, and plotting our next move. This wasn't just a personal vendetta anymore. It was about justice, exposing a dangerous man before he could ruin more lives. Emma, driven by remorse, became an unexpected ally. Together, we reached out to local media, sharing the truth, the evidence, the threats, the control he wielded over others. The story broke the next day. It spread like wildfire. His business, his reputation, everything began to crumble under the weight of public scrutiny. He tried to retaliate, but we were ready. Legal protections were in place, restraining orders filed. With community support, his threats lost their power. But this wasn't just about exposing him. It was about healing, about reclaiming our stories from his grip. As we watched his downfall unfold, Emma turned to me. Her eyes, filled with regret but also newfound strength, met mine. "I'm sorry, Jake. I was blind, but now I see." I nodded, understanding. "This chapter is closing, Emma. We move forward from here, not as husband and wife, but as two people who had learned, through pain, betrayal, and hard truths, what it meant to fight for their own lives." The storm left scars, but it also brought clarity. His exposure had ripple effects beyond us, sparking conversations about abuse, power dynamics, and the dangers of unchecked control. For Emma, Lisa, and me, it was the beginning of something new, a journey of rebuilding, healing, and moving forward. My home, once a battlefield, became a sanctuary. I began to write again, not just for myself but for others, sharing my story to offer hope and strategies to those trapped in similar shadows. Emma sought therapy, trying to understand the choices that led her down this path. We kept in touch, not as lovers, but as two people bound by an ordeal that had reshaped them both. The past would always be there, a reminder of lessons learned. But the future? That was mine to write. We met occasionally, our conversations shifting from the pain of the past to the possibilities of the future. She was rebuilding her life, and I was proud of her for it. Lisa became a friend, a testament to the unexpected alliances life can forge. We supported each other's recovery from the manipulation we had both endured. Together, we started a small support group for others who had escaped abusive relationships, turning our personal battles into a collective strength. My days were filled with new routines. I continued my physical training, now not out of necessity to prove a point, but for health and well-being. I dove deeper into my career, finding new motivation in projects that allowed me to lead, teach, and inspire. I also took up volunteering, working with organizations that empower individuals to stand up against all forms of tyranny, whether in personal relationships or broader societal contexts. One evening, sitting in the same cafe where the showdown had taken place, I reflected on the journey. The place now felt different, the shadows lighter, the air less heavy. I realized that the aftermath wasn't just about moving on. It was about moving forward with lessons learned and scars that told stories of resilience. I met someone new, not in a rush to fill the void left by Emma, but through genuine connection at one of the support group meetings. Her name was Sarah, and she understood the complexity of rebuilding after a storm. Our relationship grew slowly, rooted in mutual respect and the shared desire to foster environments where love doesn't equate to control. The legal proceedings against the man continued, a slow but sure process that would ensure he could no longer hide behind his facade. With each court date, I felt not just the weight of justice being served, but the lifting of burdens from past years. One day, I received an email from Emma. It was short, but it encapsulated our journey. "Thank you, Jake, for showing me what real strength looks like. We've both found our paths, and I'm grateful for the shared road." I replied with a simple, "Always forward." A sentiment that encapsulated not just our conversation, but our lives now. As I looked out into the city from my balcony, the skyline lit with the promise of dawn. I felt a profound peace. The aftermath wasn't just about surviving. It was about thriving, about turning the narrative from one of victimhood to one of empowerment. Life had taught me that being an alpha wasn't about dominance or the loudest voice, but about leading with compassion, intelligence, and unwavering integrity. And in this new chapter, I was ready to write my story. One where strength was measured by the lives we uplifted, not by the ones we overshadowed.